you have taken an oath to give evidence that is true to the best of your knowledge and belief. You remember that?
I remember and I do, Chair. Thank you.
You do consider that oath still binding, is that correct?
Correct, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Mentor, you will recall that when we parted, there was some work for the Commission and the investigators to do, and we undertook to revert and to bring whatever results we achieve to the Chair. You recall that?
I do.
For the record, I do confirm that we have made certain investigation in regard to certain aspects of your testimony, and I would propose that we deal with these matters in the following manner. We will first deal with what I call the China trip, the trip you took on the DTI trade mission visit in August 2010, the investigations we have made in respect thereto and the results, and I'll give you an opportunity to comment thereto. You understand?
I do.
I then propose to thereafter deal with your subsequent travel. By subsequent, I mean subsequent to the China trip, travel to Johannesburg, at a time where you state you met with Mr. Ajay Gupta, who offered you the post of Minister of Public Enterprises.
I'm sorry, your mic is not on, Ms. Mentor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chair.
I think it's best you keep it on. It doesn't interfere with, yes, ma'am. Thank you,
It's a
Chair.
bad habit from Parliament.
Well, I guess we've got better mics than Parliament. As you are aware, Mr. Ajay Gupta filed an affidavit and had applied to cross-examine you regarding certain allegations you had made against him or Mr. Rajesh Gupta or Mr. Atul Gupta. And as you are aware, for reasons that are not relevant for your and my purposes, the application to cross-examine was denied by the Chair, but the affidavit submitted dealing with the allegations you make is on record, and we will be dealing with some of those.
Thank you.
I thereafter propose that we deal with the question of the inspection in loco, which the Commission undertook together with yourself and others on the 3rd of December 2018.
That's okay.
This will then be followed by the issues relating to 3 persons, Ms. Mashile Nkosi, Ms. Mgabadeli, and Mr. Bloom, who, if you recall, you had testified would corroborate your version as regards informing the portfolio committee in Parliament of the offer made to you by Mr. Gupta.
Yes.
We will then deal with IPID matters, and in particular, your communication with Mr. McBride, and we will conclude then with the question of those persons that have applied to cross-examine you and have been granted the right to cross-examination.
That's in order.
Thank you. Just to recap, on the 27th of August, 2018, and that's the first day of your testimony, starting at page 20, you deal with the China trip, and you make the following allegations.
I'm sorry, Ms. Silo.
Yes, Chair.
From the many bundles that I've got here, where will I find, in which bundle will I find that? Or is it not here?
My apologies, Chair, I'm just trying to check here.
Yes, okay.
Chair, there is a bundle prepared.
I've got D1.
No, D1 is her statement and her annexures and some other documents.
And then there's D2.
D2 would be what we call the parliamentary documents. That was dealt with in August.
Yes.
D3 are the applications.
Yes.
D4 and D5 are the small bundles dealing with her statement that she had made to the police regarding this offer.
It does not look like I've got those here.
I apologize for that, Chair. We will organize that. There should be 3 bundles of transcripts.
Okay, there are 2 documents here marked Exhibit D and Exhibit D5, which have got a red cover page. Is that what? Are
No, Chair.
those are not the
No,
ones.
well, this is a transcript in this commission.
Yes.
I just went through the transcript to extract certain allegations Ms. Mentor had made.
Yes.
I will give references, then, Chair, to where she makes these allegations in the transcript.
Yes. Are we going to be able to deal with them without me having copies? If we will be, maybe we can proceed, and the tea break, they can be provided. But there could be problems if I need to understand answers and I can't.
And Richard, I can make a copy
access this.
available. I understand that copies are coming through now, but in
Okay.
the meantime, there's a copy I can make available, and
Okay,
hopefully
that's
that will
fine.
take. I'm looking at the date of the 27th of August, which is the first day on which Ms. Mentor testified.
Yes, okay, they can be handed up, yeah.
Yes. If then I may do the same for Ms. Mentor, just in fairness to the witness, so that she can follow the question.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I started page 20, line 11, Chair, on the transcript of 27 August.
Yes, thank you.
And at line 11, that's where the conversation starts about Ms. Mentor being on board the Emirates flight to Dubai on her way en route to China. And she states, and you may read the transcript to confirm, that on the said flight, Mr. Duduzane Zuma came to her cabin
Yes.
with 2 Indian-looking men, one of whom she subsequently came to learn was Rajesh Gupta. Further on, at page 33, she deals with now her arrival in China, in particular from line 19. And she testified that in China, in Beijing, the 3 Gupta brothers, being Mr. Ajay, Mr. Atul, and Mr. Rajesh Gupta, were all present in Beijing.
Yes.
In dealing with that, Chair, we would like to submit a further bundle of documents
Well, I see Ms. Silo at line 19 of page 33 in relation to your name, that the transcribers have added something and maybe it's things to come.
Chair, they seem to make that mistake throughout the transcript. I do not know why. Perhaps.
No, it's fine. No, I was just, yeah. Okay,
It
thank you.
arises, I guess, from who I followed in the queue.
Thank you. I think Ms. Mentor wants to say something.
Yes, Ms. Mentor.
Thanks, Chair, and I beg your pardon, and thanks for indulging me. I just would like to know, Ms. Silla has not mentioned a supplementary statement.
Affidavit.
I
Yes.
don't know what is its status, because in answering some of her questions,
Yes.
I might need to rely on that supplementary statement that she has not mentioned.
Yes, okay, she may have intended to mention it in due
Yes.
course, or it might have been oversight, but I do have the supplementary statement in front of me. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've got to understand it was filed yesterday.
Last
or
night.
last night. So, yeah, okay, all right.
Maybe I should deal with it now. As I had indicated, Chair, there are 2 extra files we are submitting this morning, and it's a further supplementary bundle. We have gone as far as D5 in Ms. Mentor's range, and we would propose that they be labeled D6-1 and D6-2.
As have Exhibit D4 and Exhibit D5 that I have in front of me been officially they've been officially admitted as Exhibit D4 or D5. Is it something that has been dealt with previously, or is it something that we must deal with now?
Both of them have been, Chair. If the Chair would have regard to D5, should start from 269. It has been admitted into
Okay, no,
evidence in
that's-
August.
Okay, that's fine. No, if it's been done, I just wanted
Yes,
to
and
be
both
sure.
D4 and D5 have been admitted.
Okay.
So following on the numbering, we are now at D6.
Yeah, now,
Should be 2 bundles.
well,
And they should read supplementary bundle, Ms. Vytjie Mentor.
I've got a bundle in a liver arch file, written supplementary bundle, Ms. Vytjie Mentor. Another bundle that I have doesn't relate to her. That one. And this one is Exhibit D3.
D3 are applications, Chair. No, that's not what we are dealing with.
Yeah.
Chair, if I may just check, the one that you have, does it go to 30315?
The last page on the liver arch file that I have is 321.
321. And that would be part of the cell phone records.
Well, I don't know what it is, but it's 321.
Yes,
That's
it's
the last page.
321, Chair, and it's part of the cell phone records.
Yes.
The second file that you're supposed to have before you, Chair, and I'm trying to locate my attorney to understand why you don't have the second file, should start from 321. If I may just have a quickly confer with Mr. Mabunda, Chair.
Yeah. Are we going to need D3 at any stage?
We will later, Chair.
Yeah, during cross-examination.
As I indicated, I deal with matters of cross-examination last.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
fine.
probably is a file that we will get to in the afternoon sometime.
That's fine, yeah.
Chair, my apologies, Mr. Mabunda hands up. No, in fact, what he has handed up is your transcript, Chair, and not your second bundle. If I may then just explain regarding Ms. Mentor's supplementary affidavit. That forms part of D6, and it would be in the second file of D6.
So D6 would consist of 2 liver arch files.
2 liver arch files,
So there could be
supplementary bundles.
D6A and D6B
We
for
could
convenience, yeah.
Indeed, we could, Chair.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Well, the one that I already have, I guess, should be D6A then.
D6A, because that's
And-
the first of the 2.
And if we can continue with what we have, let's do that. And then during the tea break, fix what needs to be fixed.
Yes, Chair, I'll try and track down what happened to your second bundle, Chair, to your second file of D6.
Okay, the liver arch file, marked supplementary bundle, Ms. Vytjie Mentor, which ends at page 321, will be marked Exhibit D6A. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have D6. Yes, I realized Ms. Mentor doesn't have the bundles, and I wanted to place on record that the affidavit you referred to, that was filed with us last night, is part of bundle D6B, and it shall be made available to you. I know you raised some issues in that affidavit. I will park those issues until you have a copy at hand, and then we will revert to the issues so that you can refer specifically to the paragraphs in the document that you would like to draw the Chair's attention to.
Thank you.
Through you,
Yes,
Chair.
Miss.
So when you give me bundle 6B, you will also give me bundle 6A,
Yes, I'll
which
give
I
you
don't
both.
have.
Yes.
Okay.
Just so you are clear, there's bundle D6. It's in 2 archive files. We are numbering it D6. The files you have next to you go to D5.
Yes.
So it will become D6, it's in 2 archive files, so it will be D61 and D62, or D6A and D6B. I apologize, Chair.
And we'll call them Exhibit D6A, Exhibit D6B. I know that lawyers like saying bundle, but it can be confusing to the reader of the transcript whether there is bundle D6 and Exhibit D6. But when there is a reference to bundle, it will be to exhibit. We'll try and stick to exhibit. Okay, all right. Yes.
Thank you. Chair, with your permission, I would like to stand this this issue down. If I may, I realize that Ms. Mentor doesn't even have D61 before her, and
Well, D6A.
D6A, I keep saying one, Chair, I apologize, D6A.
Okay.
And that is one file she must have with her now to deal with this issue of the China trip. Chair, if with your permission, I may request 5 minutes to establish what happened with the bundles, and I do apologize.
Well, I'll give you 10 minutes to make sure it's sorted out.
Then we'll sort all of them out, Chair.
We will resume at 22:11.
I apologize, Chair.
we
I'm
adjourn.
indebted to you. Thanks.
You don't want to consider dealing with handing in those video records, because it's the only reason I'm here.
No, not now.
You know, I have a practice.
Thank you, Chair.
Is everything fixed now?
It is fixed, Chair. We have handed Ms. Mentor a file, D6. Unfortunately, it is over full currently, and it will be split in two, but it is updated, so it is D6A, D6B. I am handing,
Well, is there not a separate file that will mark D6A and a separate file that will mark D6B?
the Chair's copy is filed like that. It is
Yes.
separated into A and B.
Yes,
And I propose that we deal with D6 in that manner. There'll always be an A and a B.
yes.
As I
yes.
indicated previously, I think D6A went to page 321.
Yes,
And it stays that way.
Yes.
And D6B starts from 322. And I am handing a copy for the DCJ now.
and what is this one about?
That should be the transcript.
This is
that I
the
was going to
transcript.
indicate I'm handing up two.
Okay, so D6B, you are still to hand up?
It is here, if I may request your
Yeah,
registrar to
registrar,
assist.
take that.
The top file starts at 322, and that would be D6B, Chair.
The liver arch file marked, that starts at page 322 will be marked Exhibit 6B for Beatrice.
Before you leave that file, Chair, if I may point out, at the end of D6B is a loose pack, it's a loose document.
Yes,
That is Ms. Mentor's affidavit that came in last night.
yes,
It is intended to be a continuation of D6B. It is currently, unfortunately, not paginated, and we propose to do that over the lunch hour, Chair.
okay.
Thank you. Ms. Mentor, for your purposes, your D6A and B are in one file, and then you have received your affidavit. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This thick file,
Yes.
it's D6.
A and B.
A and B?
In your instance, because it's in one file.
Where is the demarcation between A and B?
321, page 321.
Will somebody just put something that will be
A flag.
divider so that she will see?
And then you do have your affidavit and annexures.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And then maybe during the tea break, could be put in two separate files as
Yeah,
well.
we'll effect the
so that
division,
it's
Chair.
going to be easy. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chair, and I do apologize for that delay. Chair, before I proceed then to pose the questions I intended to Ms. Mentor on this, there is an aspect I would like to address the Chair on, with your permission, Chair.
Yes,
This is a matter I was going to deal with later in the course of evidence, and it regards the inspection in loco undertaken by the Commission on the 3rd of December 2018.
yes,
Present in the hearing today is Advocate Mike Helens, SC, the Senior Counsel for the Gupta family.
yes,
Just by way of brief background, Chair, at the inspection, three parties, for lack of a better phrase, were represented. There were members of the commission, led by myself at that inspection. There was Ms. Mentor and her legal team, and there was the attorney and advocates for the Gupta family.
yes,
Each of these teams took a video recording of the inspection.
yes,
We will be tendering into evidence the video recording taken by the commission.
yes,
Mr. Mike Helens has intimated that they would request that the video that the Gupta family took on the day also be submitted into evidence. And it is this issue, Chair, that we put forward to you. If I may express our view was that the 3 recordings should, for all intents and purposes, be the same. They were recording the same things, and the official recording be the Commission's recording. Both parties have their own personal recordings to do with as they deem fit.
Yes.
However, Mr. Helens insisting that it would be preferable for his client that their version or their video, if I may call it that, also be submitted separately to the Commission Chair. I don't know
Yes.
if the Chair would permit Mr. Helens to address him on this aspect.
Well, why don't we, are we not able to start and continue with Ms. Mentor until we have to deal with that maybe at a later stage?
He had made a request during the short adjournment when we were sorting out the files, which was to indicate that the reason for his presence today is to deal specifically with the issue of the video recording, and he requested that if possible that be brought forward and be disposed of so that he could be released, Chair, from the hearing.
Well, I'll hear what he may have to say, and he might have to deal with certain issues, but I would have thought that we should deal with the evidence, and if and when the time comes to show the video, then we deal with that. Maybe let me allow him time to indicate what he would like me to do.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Helens.
Firstly, let me recognize the fact that we have been denied the right to cross-examine. I'm not attempting to do anything of the sort.
Yes.
At the time of the inspection in loco, the Gupta family engaged a professional videographer. He videographed or took a video of the entire inspection from moment first to moment last. There is no editing, there is nothing added, nothing removed, and no one would suggest that there is. The Commission's or anyone else's video were taken on iPhones, which I don't suggest are inadequate, but we have a professional video record of the entire thing. We believe that it is absolutely essential for a proper adjudication of the credibility of this witness to view her appearance, performance at that inspection in loco in full. We also believe that it is in the interests of the pursuit of the truth that that video be either played before the full commission, I think it's 2 3/4 hours, or alternatively be made available to the public. And it is to press simply for that I'm here today, for no other reason. If you should rule that all video records of the inspection in loco are admissible before the Commission and therefore available to the public, I would say thank you, my lord, and leave. There is no reason why the video recording made by a videographer of the entire inspection in loco should not be placed before the Commission and therefore available to the public. And without attempting to push your tolerance beyond its limits, the credibility of Ms. Mentor is brought sharply into focus in our submission by what happened in that commission. And I would simply ask you to rule that anyone's video recording be admitted as an exhibit before this commission. I must say, we have written to the Commission and said, are you going to allow what is a completely genuine video recording of the inspection in loco to be admitted? And we've been warned under possible pain of criminal prosecution not to interfere with the Commission's process or not to reveal records of the Commission before they are ruled admissible before this court or become part of the record. So it was some trepidation and a desire not to do anything wrong that we approach you. This is the video recording of what genuinely happened, and the pursuers of truth, which this Commission is, should allow it in. That's all we ask.
One, there is the question whether or not you may appear on behalf of your clients before this commission. I just mentioned that for now. Two, it ought to be possible when there are 2 or 3 or whatever the number is of video versions, different versions of videos that were taken, video recording that was taken, it ought to be possible to determine what's really material. And so that I don't sit here and watch maybe 4 hours of a video recording where maybe all that I really need to see can be shown in 1 hour because of the importance of time. But I accept that what was found or seen during that inspection may be very important, and that's why it was necessary to have the inspection. But also, it ought to be possible for somebody who was there throughout to be able to say, we went there with a view to seeing whether A, B, C, D were there. A, B, C, D being maybe certain features of the property that Ms. Mentor may have said where she had seen. And it ought to be possible for that person to say, we found A and B, but we didn't find C, D, and E, or we didn't find any of those things. And it ought to be possible to, for everybody who was there to agree that yes, we did not find them. Why they may not have been found might be something else, but it ought to be possible to say we did not find them or we did find them. And if one has somebody who can say that, and that's undisputed, it might reduce the need for me to see everything or maybe any of the recording. But if it is there, it means it's available. Should I decide at any stage that I want to see it, then I can see it. So, I'm just making those remarks. I don't know if you have anything to say.
I would like to answer the 3 questions in reverse order. Thirdly, any evidence by anybody as to what was found there, not seen there, could never do justice to the reality of seeing Ms. Mentor in situ, confronted with the reality, her facial expressions, her being at a loss for words, and I won't go further. So that, sure, there can be evidence from someone who can give a brief description, but it would never replace the actual viewing of the video. Secondly, of course, it is possible to create a montage, a genuine montage, reducing the video. For example, walking from one place to the other in order to comment. That can be cut out. But nevertheless, the whole video should be part of an exhibit before the commission, and it may be that ultimately the
What is
commission
shown is short, maybe
decides
short
on a I'm
Yeah.
calling it a montage, maybe there's a different word.
Yes.
So there can be no objection to that as long as the public know that all
Yes.
three are exhibits and they can
Yes.
view them board
Yes.
or not board as they choose.
Yes.
Lastly, I perhaps misunderstood. I thought we were refused permission to cross-examine. I'm here simply to represent an interested party making a suggestion as to how fairness with the commission should work. But if you rule that I should never have spoken to you in the first place, then so be it.
Well, for what it's worth, it may not be necessary to make a ruling in the light of the exchange that we have had. But for what it's worth, I may not just mention that I was raising that issue because of what one of the regulations says. So I just bring it to your attention. As I say, it might not be necessary to make a ruling. It's regulation 6. It says any person appearing before the commission may be assisted by an advocate or an attorney. That's what it says. And the question would arise whether it can be said that your clients are appearing before the commission and that may be connected in some way with the ruling that was previously made in terms of that aspect. As I see it, my prima facie view is that appearing before the commission might not be restricted to somebody who is physically appearing at the moment, but maybe somebody who intends appearing in due course would fall under that. So I just thought I would give you an indication of where my thinking was, but it might not be necessary to make any ruling for purpose of today. From what you have said, it seems to me that you, and you must just tell me if I understood you, I didn't understand you correctly, you just want to make sure that all, is it 3 versions or recordings?
There were 3 people taking videos there.
Yes.
We don't know to what
Yeah.
extent the other 2 took full
Yes.
videos, but we took a full video.
Yes, that they should be admitted, number
Yes.
one. And once they, and then your second, your request or wish would be that they be shown, at least your clients won't be shown at the hearing, but if it's not shown, at least if it's admitted, then you would live with that.
And it would be available to the
It
public.
would be available to the public.
Yes, that's all we ask.
Yes, that's all you ask.
Yes.
I think, one, I'll hear what somebody from the legal team has to say, but it might not be something that needs to be decided now as such, but the with or without you having a right or not having a right to represent your clients here, it may be that the legal team, if they are aware of the existence of the different recordings, that they may be able or may have to say there are 3 recordings. We don't have any objection to all of them being admitted. It may be that your client or you yourself, it may be that you don't have a right to represent your client and appear here, but it may be that once you have or your client has made certain evidence available to the legal team must look at that, and they would be entitled, you might say obliged, they would be entitled to say it's in the public interest that all this be admitted, or they might take a different view. So I'm just simply saying it may be that with or without you making any request, it may be that in the end that video may be admitted. So I make no ruling at this stage, but I think I've heard you, and the legal team has heard you, and if it becomes necessary to make a ruling at some stage, we would need to do that, and obviously you would need maybe to make submissions on whether you may represent your client.
I understand perfectly clearly. Thank you
Yes.
for listening to me.
Yes.
I'm going to now excuse myself because I have no other function here today.
Thank you. You are excused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mentor?
Chair, I would like to bring it to your attention that my credibility has been attacked during the process when the lawyer for the Gupta family was making a presentation to you.
Yes.
It has been attacked in relation to the in-loco inspection visit,
Yes.
which we have not yet dealt with
Yes.
in today's proceedings.
Yes.
And I take exception to that.
Yeah.
And I have not had an opportunity, neither myself or my legal team,
Yeah.
to defend my credibility as
Yes.
it has been attacked. That's the first thing.
Yes.
The second thing, Chair, I would like...
Maybe let me deal with that.
Okay.
We are going to get to the point where we deal with the inspection in loco, and Ms. Silo is aware of what has been said, and if at that stage there is something you want to say and she doesn't ask you, you can ask for an opportunity to deal with that. And your legal team, I have no doubt, is in touch with the Commission's legal team. If they have certain concerns, they will raise them with them, and then we can take it from there. Is that all right?
That's all right, Chair.
Yeah, I thought you said you also had another issue.
It's just a plea, Chair,
Yes.
that probably because of my nature and my character and my personality, I take this commission extremely seriously. And when I come to appear before the commission, it is with great trepidation, because the weight that I personally carry, I think that it's the weight that this commission carries to rid our country of a dark cloud that lingered over us for about 10 years. So when I come here, Chair, I spend sleepless nights. It takes
Yes.
a great toll on me.
Yes.
Today I came here hoping that this will be the last 2 days
Yes.
of
yes.
my appearance
Yes.
to assist this committee,
Yes,
this
yes,
commission.
yes.
And I want to give it my all.
Yes.
I want to be given enough time
Yes.
so that I don't have to return here.
Yes.
Because it has been a difficult task,
Yes.
a task that I had to commit, that
Yes.
somebody had to do.
Yes.
And it's not an easy task.
Yes.
So I plead, Chair, that we should be conscious of time,
Yeah.
that I don't know if anybody feels what I feel
Yes.
as a whistleblower on
Yes.
state capture.
Yes.
I've carried a lot of weight
Yes.
on my shoulders.
Yes.
And I would like tomorrow to go home,
Yes.
to go and reflect,
Yes.
and to go and cross my fingers and pray
Yes.
that this commission completes its mission.
Yes.
So I would like us to be sensitive with time.
No, thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Chair.
much. Thank you very much, Ms. Mentor. I just want you to know that, you know, some of us might not really experience what you are experiencing, but it's something that I certainly take into account, that you may be going through a certain experience with regard to having to come to the commission to give evidence. I think everybody is going to try to do their best that we try and finish with your evidence tomorrow. So we'll try our best. Thank you. Ms. Silo?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps before Mr. Helens leaves, he might want to hear the following. I would like to assure Mr. Helens that although the equipment used by the Commission might not have been on par with that used by the Gupta family, I can confidently assure him that the images that are on that desk are a true reflection of what went on, and they, and they look like the video taken by the Gupta family. They are not a misrepresentation of anything. The only differences that lie between the videos is what the cameraman decided to focus on at a particular moment. But all the talking and the voices of those who had something to say are fully recorded on both of them.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
As the Chair indicated, when we deal with the issue of the inspection in loco, then if I may then address the Chair on how we suggest that it be dealt with. I think the Chair had said that it's not necessary to take that decision right now.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Getting back then to the China trip.
I see we are close to the tea break. We are at 8 or 9 minutes past 11. Maybe we should take the tea break later and get going,
Yes, Chair.
and maybe have the tea break at 12. Ms. Mentor, would that be fine with you?
That would be fine,
Thank
Chair.
you. Okay, let's do that. We'll take the tea break at 12.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You recall, Ms. Mentor, before we had the difficulties with the bundles, and for which I apologize, we wanted to discuss the China trip. I had referred you to the parts of the transcripts where you had stated that you met the 3 Gupta brothers in Beijing on this DTI mission, trade mission. And now I would like to refer you to the documents that we have on file and to seek your comment. The first document would be what we can term the DTI list. Chair, if we could have regard to D1. You have D1 by you.
Yes, I've got D1.
Have you located D1, Ms. Mentor?
Yes, ma'am.
And in particular, in D1, I would like to draw your attention to pages 168 through to 216. You'll recall we dealt with these documents on the previous occasion. And
I'm sorry, you said page 168 through 2?
To 216, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. We dealt with these documents on the previous occasion, and these are documents received from the Department of Trade and Industry on the state visit to the People's Republic of China from 24th to 26th August 2010. You see that?
Yes, I'm at 168, ma'am.
Thank you. I would like in particular to refer you to page 209, and from 209 to 216 is the list of people who attended the trade mission. And we dealt with this again on the previous occasion, and we confirmed that Mr. Atul Gupta's name does not appear in this list. Only Mr. Rajesh Gupta and Mr. Ajay Gupta's names appear in the list. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
So According to the DTI record, therefore, Mr. Atul Gupta was not part of that delegation, according to this document.
Yes, ma'am.
The next document then I would like to refer you to are what we term the Home Affairs records. After you testified, we requested and obtained records from the Department of Home Affairs, travel records of certain persons, including yourself, Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Atul Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mr. Duduzane Gupta, and lastly, Mr. Fana Hlongwane. These appear in the supplementary bundle, which is D6A. And at D6A, they start at page 280.
Was the page at
The record
D6A?
started 280 D6A, and
Yes.
I would like to refer Ms. Mentor in particular to page 283. Just to help orientate you, perhaps, Ms. Mentor, from 282, these are the records for Mr. Ajay Gupta, including the period August 2010. At 283, it's the records for Mr. Atul Gupta. 284, it's for Mr. Rajesh Gupta. 285 for Mr. Duduzane Zuma. 286, in respect of yourself.
I beg your pardon, ma'am, through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there is such a small print here,
Yes.
can you please take me through again, so I will write the name
Okay.
on top of every column, as you stated
Oh,
to me?
from page 283, yeah.
Page 282.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
scribble at the top there, Ajay Gupta.
Yes, ma'am.
At 283, Atul Gupta.
Yes, ma'am.
284, Rajesh Gupta.
Yes, ma'am.
285, Duduzane Zuma. 286, Mabel Petronella Mentor, yourself. You can skip 287 is the response, but from 288, those are the records of Mr. Fana Hlongwane.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I am particularly interested in the records of Mr. Atul Gupta, which would be your 283.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair, I shall assume that probably the chair has the same difficulty as Ms. Mentor, because the writing is so small. If you permit me, Chair,
Yes.
I can explain what appears there if you struggle to see. These are Mr. Atul Gupta's travel records provided by the Department of Home Affairs from the 3rd of May 2010, that is the first entry, the last entry being from the 3rd of July 2012.
Just those dates again, please, ma'am.
03/05/2010, that's the first entry.
Yes.
The last entry is 03/07/2012.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, according to this, Mr. Atul Gupta traveled out of the country on the 3rd of May, returning on the 5th, 2010. Those are the first two entries. That's a departure and arrivals. According to Home Affairs, the next time he traveled out of the country, which is the third entry, was the 3rd of October, returning to Johannesburg, to South Africa rather, on the 7th of October. So, according to Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Atul Gupta was in the country over the period 22 to 26 of August 2010, which is when the DTI trip took place.
That is the trip to China.
To China.
Yeah.
22 to?
The trip is 22 to 26 of August 2010. Mr. Atul Gupta left the country sometime in May on a trip and back. The next in 2010, the next time he traveled is in October 2010. So according to Home Affairs, Mr. Gupta was officially in the country in August of 2010, you understand? Now I'd like your comment, because you testified that you had met the 3 Gupta brothers in Beijing over the period 23 to 26 at that trade fair. And according to Home Affairs, that cannot be because Mr. Atul Gupta had not traveled. Would you like to comment to that?
Thanks, Ma'am, through you, Chair. I will comment, but for clarity's sake, just because the print is very fine, yes, I would like to ask you a question through
Please.
The Chair. These are details of Mr. Atul Gupta as based on one and single and only one passport.
No.
Maybe you should start off by explaining how Home Affairs gets information about people going in and out of the country.
Yes, Chair, I wanted to get that, but I'm anticipating what Ms. Mentor wants to raise, because she raises it in her affidavit.
Yes.
And perhaps I should explain the approach we adopted with the Department of Home Affairs. What you have on record from pages 282 are brief records of each of the individuals I've mentioned, and those the screens that include August 2010. When we made a request to the Department of Home Affairs for these travel records, they actually gave us very extensive travel records, some of which I think, like in Mr. Shongwane's case.
But I want you to deal with the prior question, how does Home Affairs come in? Then I think whatever you want to say will fit in or should fit in properly.
Okay, Chair, I'll do that. Home Affairs
If you give us the records of airline, everybody will understand why an airline will have records. So we just need that angle.
As far as Home Affairs is concerned, each time everybody legally crosses the borders of South Africa, whether arriving or entering, that movement is recorded on the Home Affairs system.
Is that part of what happens at the airport?
All points of entry, Chair.
Yeah, I think it's that angle that is missing, you know. In other words, how do they come? They come to have these records. They come to have these records because at each port of entry, is that what they call it? At each one of those, there are people there, and you can't leave the country without going through them and producing relevant documents. That's how they get that, and they store the information, and that's why they are able to make it available, or something like that.
Oh, I apologize, Chair. I think I'd misunderstood Ms. Mentor's question. I'd understood her question to relate to records relating to use of one passport.
Well, you may have a question by Ms. Mentor, but you have a question by me as well.
Okay. If it is a question by you, Chair.
I was saying that it might make the evidence easy to understand for anybody listening if you start by explaining how Home Affairs comes in with regard to travel records for anybody.
Indeed, Chair.
And it may be that that's something that will be explained later by a witness, or maybe it's not necessary, but at least if you explain that part, that's going to make it easy for everybody to follow.
I'm happy to, Chair, thank you. Our understanding, Ms. Mentor, was the Department of Home Affairs is responsible for inter alia recording movements of all persons into and out of South Africa through all registered points of entry and exit. When persons travel in and out of South Africa, they each produce, or they're expected to produce, a passport which permits them travel into or out of South Africa. On presentation of that passport at any border entry of South Africa, the details of that passport are captured onto the Home Affairs system. And they reflect the name of the passenger, their ID if applicable, the passport number, the date and time on which they either entered South Africa or exited South Africa. When we addressed our request to the Department of Home Affairs, it was on that understanding. We were in particular interested in the period August-September 2010 in respect of the 6 persons, including yourself, I had indicated. So what we have appearing from pages 282 to 286 are the records of all these people in the period in and around August 2010. What you have at 282 and following to 286 are not the complete records. What we have presented are those records that include the period August 2010. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Now, to address your question about number of passports, in response to our inquiry, the Department of Home Affairs actually went beyond the inquiry because they provided records ranging from, in some instances, 2010 to 2017, and in others to 2018. When we created the bundle, we excluded all records that are not relevant to the period August 2010. We have, Chair, prepared what we call a confidential bundle, which includes the full records. And that was to be submitted when we deal with Ms. Mentor's query as to whether or not we tracked Mr. Atul Gupta's movements through one passport. She's suggesting in her affidavit that he's known to have held more than one, in certain instances 4 or maybe 5. So you do understand that we do appreciate that there could be different passport numbers that Mr. Atul Gupta used. But for purposes of that August travel, only the Department of Home Affairs can tell us, 1, whether he did leave or enter the country on any particular day or month, and in so doing, what passport he used. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, according to Department of Home, Chair.
I take it that whatever passport he may have used to travel, if it bore the same names, then Home Affairs would have been able to supply you with those records. If you said we are looking for records for so-and-so in the name of so-and-so for this period.
In fact,
without restricting to using a particular passport. It could be whatever passport he may have used, as long as it was him, did he travel during that period.
in fact, when the inquiry was made to Home Affairs, we did not know the detail of the passport numbers.
Yes.
So we asked about specific people.
Yes.
So the responses that we receive indicate that this particular person traveled on this particular date on this
Yes.
passport number.
Yes.
And in certain instances, it appears that the passport number is different.
Yes.
So the
yes.
detail of the passport number we get from the Department of Home Affairs,
Yeah.
we don't have it.
Yeah. Okay, all right, proceed.
So, Ms. Mentor, then getting back to 283 on Mr. Atul, as regards Mr. Atul Gupta. In 2010, he traveled in May, he traveled in October, he traveled in December. So he could not have been, according to Home Affairs, in China during 22nd of August to 26th August if he left the country legally. Do you understand that?
You mean, do I understand your question?
Yes, ma'am.
I do.
Okay. Now, I would like you, based on your allegation that you met Mr. Atul Gupta in Beijing, in light of the evidence we have obtained from Home Affairs, what is your comment?
Through you, Chair, I have already stated in my evidence. Firstly, I would like to still submit that Mr. Atul Gupta has got many passports.
Yes.
That's the first thing. The second thing I would like to submit is that I have already stated in my evidence that I was informed by the person that was introduced to me in the Emirates flight, that by Mr. Duduzane Gupta. That,
Zuma.
yes, sorry.
Mr. Tuduzane Zuma.
Sorry, my apologies, Chair. That his brother is part of, is in the advance team already in China. He didn't say when he left. There's the second thing. Also, Chair, we do know that if you take the example of what happened when the Gupta plane landed at Waterkloof for the Gupta wedding in May 2013, that both people and goods were allowed into the country without clearing custom. So we do know from that experience that people do, in relation to the Gupta particularly, that they have an ability to move in and out of the country without clearing custom. And
Oh, okay, finish. I thought you
Okay.
were done, yeah.
okay. And when, I don't know, Chair, if people that form a security detail of a head of state, if they go through the same custom processes as ordinary people when they enter or leave the country. So when, as I have been told that a brother was part of the advance team, and that advance team is a team that would clear the way for a head of state, I wouldn't know when do such people leave ahead of the team. I wouldn't know if they would clear customs in normal ways as it's usually done with ordinary people. And also, we do know that sometimes our Home Affairs systems and ports of entry, and what happens at ports of entry, sometimes are not as you would expect to be. That would be my response.
Well, I just want to say this for purposes of this part of your evidence, namely today and tomorrow. You will be asked questions by a member of the legal team. I will ask you questions too. And anyone that have granted permission to cross-examine you will cross-examine you through their lawyer as well. Now, I just want to say Certainly from my side and from a member of the legal team, the idea is to see what the position is in terms of what you know for sure, what you are not sure about, and what might not be something that falls within your personal knowledge, but might be something that you had, okay? You must just remember, as we ask you questions, including myself and everybody, to always make sure that you distinguish between what you know personally and for sure. And if you know something and you have personal knowledge, you can stick to it. If you are not sure, don't say you are sure. Say, I am not sure. If it's something that you say because of what you have read somewhere, of what you have heard somewhere, make it clear that you are just saying it because that's what you have heard, but it's not what you personally know. I just thought I must just explain that to help. It's something that I would explain to all the witnesses who, before they get cross-examined. I just want to make sure that you can understand that you will be asked questions, and some of them may be difficult questions. I'm not sure, but as you answer, just remember what I've said. What you know, you can stick with that if you are sure about it. If you are not sure, don't make it look like you are sure. You say, I'm not sure, but this is as I understand the position. If it's something that somebody else told you or that you read somewhere, you mention it so that the context is understood correctly. Okay?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You may
Chair.
proceed.
Yes. Then for the record, Ms. Mentor, having listened to your response, are you suggesting that the Home Affairs records as given to the Commission may be incomplete, or are you not going that far?
I'm not, through you, Chair, I'm not going that way. I'm just mentioning what I have read about, what I have seen. I'm not saying that pertains to this record that you have put before me.
And I think maybe, let's put it this way, the relevance of these records is that in the light of those records, you have to consider to what extent you may stick to the version that a particular person was out of the country during that time. You may be able to say you stick with that. You may be able to say, well, in the light of this, I may have been mistaken, or somebody who told me might have given me information that was not correct, or you may say, look, I'm not sure, okay? So I think that the question, therefore, is, in the light of these records, would you stick with your earlier position that, who is at the beginning, 283? Is it?
283, page.
Atul Gupta.
Atul Gupta at 283, Chair.
Yeah. Would you say that you say he was in China at that time, or would you reconsider that, or what is your position?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I want to say I will reconsider, but I would want to request, as I requested before, I have advised and requested that the footage or footages of day one of the state visit should be obtained, because I was hoping that if that footage is obtained, my submission that I saw him there would be proven or disproven.
Let's assume that for because of the lapse of time, the footage cannot be obtained, and I don't know what the position is. But let's assume that there is no footage. Where would you stand on the issue?
When I look into the records of Home Affairs, according to the records of Home Affairs that are put before me today, he was not in China. That is according to the records of Home Affairs.
And the question would be whether you are prepared, in the light of those records of Home Affairs, you are prepared to accept that if there is no footage showing such a person, you are prepared to accept that maybe he wasn't there, or definitely he wasn't there, or what is your position? In other words, what effect does the record have on what you had said?
Chair, may I ask through you to return to this question during the course of the day?
That's fine, that's fine, yeah. Thank you, you may
Thank you,
proceed,
Chair.
yeah.
I have noted your answer, Ms. Mentor, and the fact that you'd like to return to it later, and in particular in response to the questions posed by the Chair. I would like then to refer to another document on the same issue, and this one appears at page 276 of bundle D6A. I said 278, Chair.
I thought you said
You said
276.
I'm listening to myself and think, I apologize, 278.
Okay.
The document at 278 on the top right-hand corner is dated the 15th of November, 2018, you see it. And it's a document from Emirates Airlines, based in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. But by way of a background, Chair, having obtained the Home Affairs records,
Yes,
the Commission then issued a request for information to the Emirates Airlines in respect of the 6 people listed in there, to which Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mr. Atul Gupta, Mr. Duduzane Zuma, Ms. Mabel Mentor, and Mr. Fana Hlongwane. And in this particular instance, the Chair will notice that next to each person is a passport number.
yes,
The information as regarding the passport number is extracted from the Home Affairs records.
yes.
So what happens is we get the Home Affairs records first, and then we make our inquiry or request to Emirates.
Yes,
The Emirates responded and overleaf, and if I may just say, the inquiry again was in respect of travel by any one of the 6 in the period July 2010 to December 2010.
yes,
And the response appears at 279. You see that, Ms. Mentor? 279 lists 5 people, numbered 1 to 5. And it gives us their travel history between the period May, in respect of the first one, Ajay Gupta, is between May and October 2010. The second one is Mr. Rajesh Gupta, 31 May 2010 to 27 August 2010. The third, Mr. Atul Gupta, and it shows between 3 October 2010 and 7 October 2010. Mr. Duduzane Zuma, 31 May 2010 to 27 August 2010. And lastly, number 5, Ms. Mentor, 22nd August 2010, 27 August 2010. Now, bearing in mind that the inquiry related to travel between July and December on Emirates Airlines, and trying to confirm or understand who are the 2 people you met or were introduced to by Mr. Zuma on that flight from Johannesburg to Dubai, this is the response we get from Emirates. If we look then at number 3, Mr. Gupta Atul. According to Emirates, Mr. Atul Gupta flew their airline on the 3rd of October 2010 4th of October 2010, 6th of October 2010, and 7th of October 2010. They did not carry him in August. You understand? Now, as with the Home Affairs records, do you have any comment to that? Because according to, you stated that there were 2 Indians, and you could not say whether the second was Mr. Atul. But are you willing to accept that, as Emirates state, Mr. Atul Gupta did not fly any Emirates airline in August 2010? You willing to accept that, or you want to take issue with it?
Madam Chair, Chairperson, in terms of the records of Emirates as they stand here, Mr. Atul Gupta did not fly Emirates, but neither did I say in my statement that he was introduced to me in any flight.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. I am putting this to you to get an understanding of whether you are willing to accept, based on the Emirates records, that whoever the second person of Indian descent that Mr. Duduzane Zuma was with or introduced you to, it cannot be Mr. Atul Gupta. Can we exclude him as a possible second person?
I am willing to exclude him, and I've never said that he was the one.
Okay, then we are satisfied. Thank you. Staying with that, page 278 and 279, Chair, we note that the first one, Mr. Ajay Gupta, traveled on Emirates in the month of May, August, and October.
Well, I assume that Ms. Mentor has had a chance to see all of these documents before, because if she had, and I see she shakes her head, if she had, it wouldn't be necessary to say when he traveled. It would be enough to say the records appearing at page so-and-so provided by Emirates do not reflect that he traveled during that time and that time or between those dates. And if she has already seen them, she would need to go through it. She would say, I know that the records don't show that, and I accept or I don't accept. But
if I may, Chair.
Yes.
Since Ms. Mentor appeared before you in August, and we started with our investigations, as the investigation reports were being submitted, they were being forwarded to our attorney for onward transmission to Ms. Mentor. So they were provided to her in dribs and drabs, as and when they became available.
Yes.
And this record was made available, as you can see, Chair, it's dated 12th November, soon after it was received.
Yes.
I would have to check the emails from Mr. Mabunda.
Yes.
So
yes.
in answer to your question, she ought to have seen them and had the opportunity to discuss them with her lawyer. I don't know if she in fact did.
Whether it happened, you don't
Yes.
know.
What I can then state is on Friday,
Yes.
all these reports that were coming in dribs and drabs were then all collated and put together and paginated, and they make up bundle D6A and D6B.
Yes. Okay, all right. Ms. Mentor, I think you indicated that you didn't have a chance to read these records before.
Chair, the file was given to us on Friday.
Yes.
And I've had a glance of the file. I've discussed. I know the gist.
Okay, all right, not the details.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe in order to make sure that we move fast, and particularly in the light of Ms. Mentor's own request about time,
Yes, Chair.
maybe you should simply say that the record at page so-and-so, you have had a look at it, this is what it doesn't reflect, or this is what it reflects, and she will say if she is able to accept that, or she doesn't accept that, or if she needs to go and have a look. But if she has looked, she might not need to look now, then we can go much faster.
Indeed, Chair. Then if we look at page 279, and we are looking in respect of Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Ms. Mr. Duduzane Gupta, and yourself. We know now Mr. Atul Gupta was not part of that travel.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to this page, on that flight on the 22nd of August 2010 from Johannesburg to Dubai, traveling in that plane was Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mr. Duduzane Zuma, and yourself. You see that.
Yes, ma'am.
And you do see on the same page that on 27 August 2010, on the flight from Dubai to Johannesburg, the following passengers were on that flight EK0765, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mr. Zuma Duduzane, and yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
So you flew back to Johannesburg from Dubai, strictly from Dubai, with both Mr. Duduzane Zuma and Mr. Rajesh Gupta.
Yes, ma'am. Something I discovered on Friday.
Okay. Now, I would like to refer us to your previous evidence, where you suggested to the chair that coming back from China, you brought your return date forward and you flew via Hong Kong. Do you still stand by that statement?
Chair, through you, Chair, insofar as Hong Kong is concerned, I had flown to China and I might have made a mistake about returning via Hong Kong. I might have confused that with another trip.
Yes.
That I will concede.
Yeah.
And what was your other question, ma'am?
No,
I think that was the only one so far.
That was the only one so
Yeah,
far, yes,
okay.
indeed, Chair.
Yeah.
And when we look at your records at page 286, we notice that in the year 2010, your return from Dubai was actually your last travel in and out of South Africa. Your next travel is on the 17th of May 2011. So you possibly could have confused it with that trip, the 2011 trip.
Yes, ma'am. I could have confused it with the 2011 trip, or I could have confused it with the trip that I said I undertook as the chair of the portfolio committee ahead of the committee, because in total there were 3 trips to China that I undertook.
Oh, so it could have been a trip before the
Yeah,
China
before or
trip.
after.
Thank you. And if I then lastly may just point out at 279, in your transcript you suggested that you spent a night in China and then you flew back. According to this Emirates details, you arrived in China on the 23rd of August in Beijing, and you flew out of China and specifically from Shanghai to Dubai on the 27th of August. So you spent more than one night, and you actually were in both Beijing and Shanghai, according to these records. Does that assist your recollection?
Through you, Chair, if you go carefully through my transcript and my submission, I said that I arrived on the day of the first proceedings, and that first night was supposed to be the night of the state banquet, that I chose not to attend because of what happened and other reasons, just before the banquet. That was the first night.
Yeah.
And I also said that after that interaction on the landline from somebody from reception, I immediately unhooked my phone, switched off my cell phone, but reconnected my cell phone, phoned the leader of the Chinese delegation I was going to meet alongside the state visit, and suggested to them that we rather meet at my hotel. So the following day, we met at my hotel, according to my evidence before you. And further, I also said that that second day after our meeting, out of which I got a document that would be made part of the umbrella decisions of the state visit, I said that the Chinese delegation hosted an impromptu dinner, farewell dinner for me. So from my evidence, when you add those, I spent 2 nights in China. The first night being the banquet night, the second night being the night of the meeting after the meeting with the delegation of the Chinese SOEs, which ended with an impromptu farewell dinner. And I have just considered that I might have flown not through Hong Kong, which means that I might have flown through Shanghai. Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Mentor, just to assist you and for record purposes, and I think it's only fair I put this to you, I would like to refer back to D1 and the DTI records. And in particular, at page 179, the DTI provides us with an itinerary for that trade visit. D1, the one that contains your statement.
It's a smaller bundle. I don't know
This
if
one?
it looks the same
Is
as
it
this
in a
one.
Archive file?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. 179 at the top right-hand corner.
179. I'm there, ma'am.
Yes, now, this itinerary suggests that on the 23rd of August, which if one considers page 279 of D6A, is the date on which you arrived in Beijing, there was only a private dinner, a briefing for the president and a private dinner. The state banquet you refer to was supposedly held on the 24th of August, the next day. And at 1:80, you will see from 6:30. It's a dinner hosted by President Hu Jintao at the Great Hall of the People. Now, my question to you is, could you have perhaps gotten your dates wrong? You did not arrive on the day of the state banquet, but you had arrived the day previous.
No, ma'am. You yourself are saying there were 2 dinners for the president.
No, I'm saying there is one state dinner. The banquet is on the 24th of August, according to the DTI. And you had actually arrived on the 23rd of August, the previous day, and that we glean from the Emirates records. So you arrived in China, spent the night, and the banquet was the following.
Draft program provided by DTI, the banquet was on the 24th. It was a Tuesday of August. And if you arrived on the same day on which the banquet was held, then it would mean that you arrived on the 24th, according to this. So you might be able to say, well, whatever this program says, you are clear in your mind as to when you arrived and when the banquet was, and you are able to say when the banquet was. So the idea is just to say, according to this draft program, and it says draft program, we don't know if there might have been a final program later that might have been amended. What do you say?
Through you, Chair, what I know is that I arrived on the first day of the proceedings, and on that day, as I already said, I went into a registration hall because I was late, and proceedings were already underway outside. I registered for the state, for the state visit. I also was directed and directed to another table where I was registered for a state banquet. And that state banquet was supposed to be that night. And I also, that first night, I did not attend that state banquet. The following day, I had a meeting with the Chinese delegation and I have a dinner with them. So I don't know, I cannot talk about the dates of the draft programs of DTI. I can certainly tell you that I arrived the first day. I registered for the proceedings and for the state banquet. And I opted not to attend the state banquet after what I had encountered. And I had a meeting at the hotel the following day and a dinner at the hotel the following day.
Okay. Whether or not this is a draft program or whether there was an updated program, perhaps that is different from what has been submitted, is a matter that will be clarified by, I'm sure, DTI officials should the necessity arise. Thank you. If I can then move on to the next issue. Ms. Mentor, Chair, as the Chair will recall, Ms. Mentor had testified that during the flight from Johannesburg to Dubai, Mr. Duduzane introduced her to a person he referred to as his chairman. The error that Ms. Mentor had made in her book as to the identity of the person was corrected at the last occasion she appeared before you. Ms. Mentor has since, and at that point she suggested that the correct person's name is Fana Hlongwane. Ms. Mentor has since retracted her allegations against Mr. Fana Hlongwane, and we will deal with that later.
Yes.
She, however, has insisted that though she may not recall the name of the person, she is able to indicate where that person sat relative to her own suite in that cabin. And she requested that we obtain the flight manifest for first class of that Dubai flight. Now, in a bid not to influence her mind, before I say that, the flight manifest was received yesterday.
Yes.
And it has not been shared with Ms. Mentor.
Yes.
In a bid not to influence her final decision or what she submits to you, Chair, I have attempted to recreate the seating arrangement of that first-class cabin as provided by Emirates. I have indicated where Mr. Ajay Gupta sat, where Ms. Mentor sat, Mr. Duduzane sat, and Mr. Rajesh Gupta sat. I have left the rest blank. And during the tea break, I would like Ms. Mentor perhaps to apply her mind to this little structure and see if she can identify the seat she says she was taken to where she was introduced.
Yes.
What I will then submit, Chair, is the actual manifest.
Yes.
After she's made that identification, and then we can take it from there, Chair.
Yes, okay.
If I may, before we stand, if I may officially hand in.
Yes, okay.
It doesn't even need a number, Chair.
Yeah,
if
it's
we could
just for
use it as a
convenience, yeah.
tool. So you
Okay.
could give one to the Chair and one to Ms. Mentor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Mentor,
Sorry, ma'am.
Yes.
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
Before we pass to the next point, I would like to take this opportunity once again to apologize to Mr. Fana Hlongwane, and I want to sincerely also express my gratitude for his kindness for having accepted my apology.
Yes. No, thank you very much.
and just to assure you, Ms. Mentor, we were still going to deal with that in depth, and I was going to give you a full opportunity
Yes.
to address the Chair.
Yes, no, that's fine.
Thank you.
We are going to take the tea adjournment now. It's 12 o'clock. We will resume at 12:15. We adjourn.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Silo?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, when we broke for tea, I had given Ms. Mentor a table that depicts the flight manifest received from Emirates, indicating only where she, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, Mr. Ajay Gupta, as well as Mr. Duduzane sat, to give her an opportunity to indicate where the quote-unquote chairman sat on that flight.
Well, first tell us what this document represents, and it may be that I think we must, it may be that we should formally make it part of the record, because if she points, we might want to retain the document reflecting where she pointed so-and-so was sitting, but maybe we can decide that in due course. Maybe just go ahead.
Chair, if I may, I was not submitting it into evidence because it's my creation. And it was merely intended to assist or to facilitate the flow of information between the chair and Ms. Mentor. However, during the tea break, there were developments that perhaps
Yes.
will obviate the need to answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Mentor has pointed out to me that the purpose for requiring the flight manifest from Emirates was so she could prepare her retraction against Mr. Fanahlongwane.
Yes.
That retraction has already been issued, and she is of the view that it is not necessary to consult the flight manifest at all. It is currently in the records, and with your guidance, Chair, we can take the next step as regards that flight manifest. But she no longer requires it, she no longer relies on it, and she is not interested in conducting any pointing out as to where the chairman sat.
Well, the witness may have a certain view about that, but you are the member of the legal team of the commission. You must know what you need from this witness and whether there's any use for this anymore.
Chair, the need for that tool was to assist Ms. Mentor to do the pointing out.
Yes.
If Ms. Mentor is not doing the pointing out,
Yeah.
I am going to submit as part of the confidential bundle the actual flight manifest.
Okay,
Which
so
indicates
this falls
where
away.
that tool falls away.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead.
Then at this juncture, Chair, I referred earlier to what I called a confidential bundle. The confidential bundle contains all Home Affairs records received, as well as the flight manifest received from Emirates Airlines. It's confidential, Chair, because it's about 5 to 7 year travel detail of a number of people, the detail of which is not relevant for purposes of this commission, and we submit it for purposes of completeness, one, as to what we receive from Home Affairs, and secondly, to address an issue raised by Ms. Mentor in her supplementary affidavit.
Well, you see, we have to try and limit, as far as possible, documents that go into the record
Yes, Chair.
to documents that really are necessary. For example, the travel records relating to provided by the Emirates airline.
Yes, Chair.
If the witness were to concede, for example, that so-and-so and so-and-so were not on that airline, it might be sufficient to say she has seen those, and based on having seen those, this is her position, and if it means the issue becomes non-contentious, I might not really need to have them. But if, despite the records, the issue remains contentious, then we might need to admit it. So, so I'm saying in regard to whatever records you are talking about that are confidential, you just need to reflect properly on what really we need to admit, and that which we really need to admit that we can do. But we mustn't have too many documents, some of which might not really be of much assistance. They just serve to increase our record unnecessarily.
Indeed, Chair. The Chair will recall that when we dealt with bundle 6, D6A, and in particular the records received from Home Affairs, we restricted ourselves in respect of each passenger to those records that overlapped the period August 2010, and we excluded everything else. The affidavit filed by Ms. Mentor last night is, and the allegations set out therein, is what necessitated a consideration of disclosing the full Home Affairs record. And Ms.
Yes.
Mentor pointed out that Mr. Atul Gupta is known to have had more than 4 passports, and it does not appear like we made an investigation as regards his travels using those other 3 passports. And this confidential then bundle is submitted in a bid to demonstrate to Ms. Mentor that the Commission is aware of all the 4 passports and that they are reflected in the Home Affairs records.
Oh, okay. No,
Yes,
that's
Chair.
fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With your permission.
Maybe we should talk about handing up when we get to that point. I don't know whether it's the next point, because we have had, or Ms. Mentor has made some concessions in regard to someone or some people in the light of the records from either Emirates or from Home Affairs. I can't remember whether it could be called a full concession or a qualified concession, but maybe one can ask more questions and then it might dispose of the need for some of the records.
Maybe, Chair, with your permission, we may address it thus, and that was the next point I was going to get to. In D6B,
Yes.
the loose set of documents we provided is Ms. Mentor's application, supplementary affidavit filed last night, and I would like to refer Ms. Mentor and the Chair to that. She deals with this aspect at paragraph 10 of that, and perhaps I would like to pose to her a question regarding whether she still maintains the view that the Commission failed to investigate Atul Gupta's travel in full, or whether she is willing to accept that we have records of all Mr. Gupta's travels on any passport that he has ever carried.
Yeah, I think I want us to get going.
Yes.
She has raised her hand. I think she has something to say. Let me hear what she has to say, and then let's get going. You ask questions, and let's see how we move, and if and when you have to hand up any document, you will deal with that, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you,
Ms.
Chair.
Mentor, you wanted to say something.
Thanks for indulging me, Chair. It is not on the point that Ms. Silo is on. It's on a point that we dealt with earlier before tea break.
Yes.
So I don't want to
Yes,
I just want to alert you that there is a point I need to step back into
yes,
before
yes.
we move ahead that we had dealt with before break
Yes.
time.
Okay, I think let's do that, deal with that point before she resumes questioning you. Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mentor?
Advocate Silo, on the issue of the draft program of DTI
Yes, ma'am.
that you asked me about before we adjourned,
And for the record, Chair, that would be D1, page 179.
Yes.
Yes.
may I kindly submit to you through the chair that
Ms. Mentor, feel free not to use lawyers' languages, just speak, this submit and so on.
I think in
Forget
the other
about-
life, I was a lawyer before, or I hope to be one.
Yeah, just feel free to use words that you would naturally use to make the points that you want to make.
Thank you, Chair. The draft program of DTI, the first part of the 23rd of August that you showed me, Advocate Sillo,
Yes, ma'am.
it's actually the president's, as you notice, the times for those, they are all 00000.
Yes.
It's actually not the program of the proceedings of the state visit. They're actually what I would say almost a diary for the president, what the president was doing. I would submit that on the day I was flying. And I would also submit that there is a time difference between South Africa and China, that on the 23rd, I flew to Dubai, spent a 4-hour overlay in Dubai, flew for 7.5 hours to Beijing, arrived in Beijing on the day of the actual program, which on the DTI program is actually Tuesday the 24th.
I'm sure the chair understands.
What is the effect of what you are saying to the evidence you had given earlier? Are you saying what you had said accords with the draft program if the time difference is being taken into account? That's what you are saying?
Yes, Chair. If the time difference is taken into account, and if the time I spent flying, when I departed, the time I spent flying is also taken into account.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I have noted, and I think the chair is clarified on your submissions in that regard.
Yes,
If I may
you
proceed.
may proceed, yeah.
Now, Ms. Mentor, to get to the issues that you raise in your supplementary affidavit, and that is the document that is loose in D6. It's your affidavit that was filed last night. And I would like to refer you in particular.
What page is that?
It is it's the loose document that is currently unnumbered, Chair. I indicated that it is a continuation of D6, so it would be the last few pages.
Oh, okay, all right. That is the one written supplementary statement of Ms. Mabel Petronella Mentor.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, okay.
You have located your, thank you.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
you said that is supposed to be added at the end of
D6B.
D6B.
Yes, Chair.
And what will be the first, what number will be the first page? Are you able to tell me so I can mark here?
Yes, Chair. If you could bear with me. 547 should be the first page of that affidavit, Chair.
The first page will be what?
547.
Yeah, this should have been done during the 2 breaks that we have had.
They have gone down, Chair. There are no, unfortunately, printing facilities here. They have to go back to the office. But it will be
Yeah.
done during lunch.
Okay, all right.
I apologize, Chair. And because it's not paginated, if the Chair would permit me to refer to the page numbering, the typed numbering in the
Yes.
document.
Okay.
Ms. Mentor, if you refer to page 4 of that document, from paragraph 10, at paragraph 10 and 11, you advise that to the best of your knowledge, Mr. Atul Gupta had more than one passport, or has had more than one passport, and could very well have traveled on another passport number in that period. You confirm that, right?
Yes, as it stands in the statement
In the
right now.
statement, yes.
Yes.
Based on the discussion we've just had, do you
Well, do you want to first just confirm that, as you normally do, that this
That
is
is
her
her signature.
supplementary statement, look at the signature and blah, 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 is it correct? Are there any amendments that she might need to make?
I'll do so, Chair, and
Then we
it's a
know
correct
that is
approach.
out of the way.
We know it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Ms. Mentor, did you follow the Chair's, what the Chair pointed out? Ms. Mentor?
Ma'am, you were pointing me to number
No,
10.
no, no, but just pause a
Okay,
bit.
let me help you. The document you are looking at is supposed to be one written supplementary statement of Ms. Mabel Petronella Mentor. Is that the document you are looking at?
Yes, Chair.
It is not paginated at the moment,
Yes, Chair.
and it's got, it seems to go up to page 21, and then it has got annexures, is that right? Have you got page 21?
Yes, Chair, followed by annexures.
Yes. Page, on my document, page 21 has got your name at the bottom, but it doesn't, it's not signed.
Yes,
Is
Chair.
yours also the same?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. And is this your statement, a supplementary statement that you have made?
Yes, Chair.
You have had a chance to read it, and is it correct?
Yes, Chair.
Are there any amendments that you need to make as far as you are aware?
Not at this stage.
Not at this stage, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So as far as you are concerned, it is correct,
Yes, Chair, and it is my document.
and it is yours. Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
You had started reading paragraph 10 of that statement, Ms. Mentor, and thanks for confirming that it is your affidavit and the correctness thereof. My question was whether, based on the conversation we've had thus far, you hold the view that there are other passports that Mr. Atul Gupta may have used that you are of the view that the Commission has failed to investigate.
Chair, given what Advocate Sillo has submitted to the Commission this morning, which is that the Home Affairs did as such the way they did, I am willing to accept it when she puts it to you and to the Commission, that Home Affairs would have taken into consideration all the passports.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That would have been the purpose of submitting the confidential bundle.
Yes.
And in light of the concession granted by Ms. Mentor,
Yes,
I confirm, Chair, it would not be necessary.
Necessary.
It would just render the record unduly prolix, Chair.
okay, thank you.
Under the circumstances, there shall be no 6DC confidential.
Well, if it hadn't
Record,
been
Chair.
admitted, it's not there yet, isn't it?
I had suggested, so
Yeah.
whoever reads, it
Yeah.
does not exist at this
Yeah,
juncture.
you are not pursuing its admission.
Absolutely, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, You
There-
received assistance.
There's some a suggestion of how to approach it differently, that
Yes.
perhaps you not accept her concession at this juncture,
Yes.
and that we revert to this issue at a later stage. I'm happy to do so, Chair.
It's fine, you can raise it at a later stage.
Will do so, Chair.
Yeah, if it's necessary. Okay?
That then, sorry, yes, ma'am.
Am I allowed to ask why that request is being made?
If I,
Well, maybe I should have said what I didn't say, and it might help Ms. Mentor. Ms. Mentor has raised the issue of time.
yes,
So I think she may be thinking whatever is going to happen if you are going to raise that issue at some stage, it should be during these 2 days because she would like to finish.
yes.
I think that's what she has in mind. I didn't say that, but I had it in mind, and I thought because we had dealt with it, she would be aware that it must be raised if it's going to be raised during these 2 days. Thank
And
you.
if I may state for the record, the suggestion is based on the notion that you should not be prejudiced by making a concession in circumstances where you have not applied your mind to the documents. So the chair has noted the concession, but you will have an opportunity over lunch to look at the documents, and then we can just confirm it up after lunch.
Okay, thank you.
We move then, Chair, to the travel to Johannesburg, and I leave it that broadly because the date of travel is not easy to determine. Currently, Ms. Mentor doesn't have a direct recollection of when she came to Johannesburg, and we have collected some documents to try and see if we can assist her in that regard. And the travel to Johannesburg concerns her trip to Saxon World, where Mr. Ajay Gupta supposedly made an offer.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Chair.
Now I think we've been talking about China
I was
and
saying,
her coming back from China. So when you say travel to Johannesburg, I thought that she's coming back to South Africa. This is now something else.
It's my second
Her
topic.
visit to the Saxon
Saxon World.
according to her
Yes,
evidence.
Chair.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And with your permission, Chair, again, I have one of the tools, which is the calendar as it stood at the time. I've extracted July 2010 to December 2010, and I have populated it with Ms. Mentor's flights Cape Town or visits to Johannesburg over that period. And I suggest we start at that point.
That's fine.
Thank you. If I may then hand it in again, it's not an exhibit, it's just a working tool, if I may, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll hand in one for the Chair and one for Ms. Mentor. Just to assist how we go about this document, Chair, every page is a different month. I have tried to highlight in red the start of that particular month. In some instances, like the second page, August 2010, I have canceled out the last dates because they flow into September, but they appear on the next page. So the Chair can take every page as a month.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Mentor, you will recall that at the last session, SAA had provided us with your travel movements between July and December 2010. And for reference purposes, these are to be found at D1, page 226.
D1.
226, Chair. 226. Have you located it?
My D1226 is question for written reply in Parliament.
if I may,
That's the same as mine.
in D, the error is mine, Chair, D2. And it's not the file with her statement. The first supplementary bundle.
You're saying it's D2,
D2, Chair.
exhibit D2.
And
What page?
226.
May I put away D1? Are we coming back
Please,
to D1?
put it away, not too far, but for the moment, we are not dealing with it. Now,
Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
with the tool I handed up, I extracted the information from D2226 and populated the calendar. I figured it reads easier that way.
Well,
see that?
well, based on my recollection from the previous occasion, shouldn't you simply say, according to this record, tell her what record it is, so and so, or she did not travel between Cape Town and Johannesburg between that time or that time, or she did travel during that time and that time, and then she can take it from there whether there's a need to scrutinize.
Chair, that's, I would prefer not to say when she didn't travel. Chair.
Okay,
I would like to
all right.
present the picture of her travels.
Yeah,
There is other information that we must overlay on this
okay,
in order to answer the question about the meeting at Saxon World.
okay, all right.
So I just wanted, for record purposes, to refer to D2266 to say that the information as reflected in my calendar derives from there and it is all there.
Oh, okay, all right.
Then secondly, if we can go to the month of October 2010, which would be your fourth page, Chair. Under the 15th of October, I am in that little in the calendar I handed up now.
Page 4.
It's
Oh,
not
it's not
numbered
written, it's
physically,
not
the
numbered,
the
yeah,
fourth
okay.
page. There is a 15th of October 2010.
I just mentioned to you that those who work with me know that I have aversion with documents that have got no page numbers. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Duly noted, Chair, it will not happen again. I apologize.
Okay.
The 15th of October, there is an entry that does not, there are flight details that don't appear at 226 because those details were obtained from SAA. If the Chair and there is a document obtained from Parliament which shows Ms. Mentor's travels in that period. It includes the day of the 15th of October, indicating she flew from Cape Town, Johannesburg, Cape Town. So if the Chair could just make a note in Ms. Mentor for the 15th of October, there is a flight. Okay? Now, having done this then,
In the file through you, Chair, where is that Parliament document?
Uh, 215, Chair.
But don't you want to deal with one document and finish, and then we move to the next one? And when we get to the one from Parliament, you'll deal with it at that stage.
I may do so, except that I didn't want to prejudice her by omitting one day on which she flew, because SAA appears to have missed that date.
When she answers, or before she answers, if you want to say something to make sure she's not misled, you can say that.
I'm
But
happy to.
I think deal with one document at a time. Let's deal with it, finish the next document, and then we,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, Ms. Mentor, you will recall that you testified previously that after your return from China in August 2010, you were invited to meet with the president by Ms. Kaunda, and you subsequently found yourself at Sahara firstly, and then Saxon World, where you met with Mr. Ajay Gupta, and that you were taken through by Mr. Rajesh Gupta and Mr. Atul Gupta. You recall that evidence. You have to do it verbally, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You testified then that on that particular visit, which was a flight into Johannesburg and back to Cape Town, same day that the president arrived at the Gupta residence.
Yes, ma'am.
We have requested and obtained a number of records, amongst them the president's diary for that period. Dr. Lubisi, the DG in the presidency, provided us with the president's diary from the months June to December 2010 to try and determine where the president was. You understand? Now, the first thing we do on the tool I handed in is to try and locate your Monday flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg and back to Cape Town. And based on 226, D2226, we cannot find a record of a flight on SAA you took from Cape Town to Johannesburg and back to Cape Town. That's what this tool demonstrates, you understand? You have to speak into the mic.
Yes, ma'am. I tend to do that when I get tired.
Okay. Notwithstanding that,
Well, before you go there, do you have anything to say about the records reflecting that?
Yes, Chair.
What do you have to say?
Chair, the records that are SAA records on page 226.
Yes. That is now, page 226, D2.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, not really. Sorry,
On
that
D2.
is
I think it's D2.
D6A?
D6, no, the SAA records.
D2.
That's
Oh, that's
D2.
D2, yeah, okay,
226.
on
Yes,
D2,
Chair.
yes.
Yes, Chair. Firstly, I don't know if they are computerized records out of SAA system, but because they are also repetition, there are chunks of repetition. If you go from the 1st of July until the,
Maybe let me say this so you can, then you can answer. What you have to deal with now is that whereas you said in your evidence that you flew from Cape Town to Johannesburg for purposes of meeting with the former president on the date or week or month that you gave, to the extent that you may have meant that you used SAA, their records do not seem to support what you say. What do you say to that? So that's what you need to deal with.
their records do not support what I've said, but I think there are issues with their records, Chair.
Yes, tell me about those issues.
As I said, there are repetitions. For instance, if I take you to the 1st of July, the very first two columns on top. It's I'm supposed to have departed on the 1st of July 2010 and returned on the 10th of July, meaning that I would have spent 9 to 10 days in Johannesburg. And that's not possible, and that has never happened.
Yes.
And I must say, I've also compared SAA records, these ones that are from
Yes.
SAA.
Yes.
I've compared them with the ones of the SAA records from the records of Parliament Travel Agency, which were also forwarded to me by the Commission.
Yes.
There were disparities.
Yes.
And on one airline, not only, I'm not talking about other airlines,
Yes,
which is
yes.
SAA.
Yes.
And also, Chair, on that, when I compared the two, there were missing legs
Yes.
of journeys.
Yes.
So a simultaneous comparative study of this record from SAA and the record of SAA from Parliament records, there was a disparity.
Yes.
And to the extent that in my submission I said that I flew in and out SAA,
Yes.
I still maintain that when I checked in that morning, when I was on crutches, I checked into SAA, and then I flew SAA the first leg. Often it happens that you miss your flight and then you phone Parliament Travel again, and you are put on a different flight. Then you
Yes.
recoup your ticket, your leg later on.
Yes.
This is what I have to say, but the records do not correspond. They do not, they are not a true reflection of my travels in that I've never spent 9 or 10 days during a parliamentary session in Johannesburg. And I might have flown a return on another airline, even
Yes.
if I had checked in to SAA, intending to return on SAA, or the second leg.
Well, I'm going to ask you this question without looking at the records. Where, to the extent that there is a time frame in the records where, according to SAA's records, you traveled from Cape Town to Johannesburg on a particular day, but the next flight by you from Johannesburg to Cape Town is 9 or 10 days later. Is it possible that what may have happened is that when you were coming up to Johannesburg, you, on the one day, you used SAA, but when you were flying back to Cape Town, which may have been on the same day, you used another airline. And on some other occasion, when you flew from Cape Town to Johannesburg, you used one airline. And when you flew from Johannesburg to Cape Town, you used SAA, and therefore they don't have the other leg. So in other words, the two that seem to you to be two legs of one journey might not actually be 2 legs of one journey. Is that possible, as you understand the position?
Thanks for that question, Chair. I had asked the Commission, also having a similar question in mind, to probe for me the records from other airlines. I had asked them to check if on some legs I could have flown SA Express, and from the records we found out that in 2010, SA Express was not flying the Joburg-Cape Town route. I also asked them to check the records of British Airways, if I could have possibly flown British Airways, and the response was that British Airways said that they never carried me as a passenger. So I've never been, that was the response. It was not a written response, it was a verbal response. We even asked if they, that they should check if I could have flown Mengu. And in my whole life, I've never flown Mengu until until last year. So when I was in Parliament, but still, nonetheless, I requested that they should check the records of Mengu. So we had asked with my legal team that all airlines records should be checked so that we compare them with SAA to answer precisely the question that the chair is asking.
If I may be of assistance, Chair, I'll start with the Mengu.
Yes.
In D6B, page 546, is a response from Mengo Airlines.
You are at what page?
D6, you remember the one that we submitted this morning?
You said B, yeah?
D for David.
That D6B, you
A,
said.
oh, B.
Yeah, D6B.
B.
Yeah.
Page 546.
My affidavit, my statement.
No, you remember the file that I handed in today and I requested it be marked D6?
Yeah, there is D6A and then D6B. We are looking at D6B.
I think you are looking at the transcript. Is it?
No, no. This one that is.
Somebody must just help her.
Just help her.
I think
You
Ms.
said which
Mlefe
one?
just help her.
546, it's handwritten at the top right hand.
Yes, Mengo,
okay.
I see it.
That
What page?
546, Chair. The last page on that file before we get to Ms. Mentor's affidavit. And
Yes, you can go ahead.
546
Proceed.
is a response from Mengo reflecting that they only retain passenger details in respect of flights booked and flown for a period of 5 years. And this is a response in August 2018. Consequently, they do not have any records dating to 2010. And that's as far as we could take it, Chair.
Okay, that's Mango.
That's Mango. I will obtain that. We received an email correspondence from
British Airways?
British Airways, which, as Ms. Mentor states, correctly states, we advised, it stated that British Airways' response was that they have never carried that passenger in that period, and we will locate the document for you, Chair.
Yes, okay.
So at the end of it, what we had to discount Mengo, not necessarily because it did not carry her, simply because Mengo says they do not have records. And we discounted British Airways on the basis that British Airways claimed that it had never carried Ms. Mentor in that period, which was July to December 2010. We're then left only with SAA. And the SAA record at D226 includes SAA Express. So SAA should actually be considered to mean SAA/SAA Express. SAA Express, rather.
So the one that doesn't have the records for that period is which one?
Mengo.
Mango. At any rate, she says she never traveled Mango until last year.
She did indicate even on the previous
Yeah,
occasion,
so-
Chair, yeah.
So, and British Airways say
They did not carry her in that
during
period.
that period, and SAA's records,
Are the ones that are
Are
now
the ones that
reflected
we
in this,
have.
yes, at D2226.
yes. In the light of this, are you able to say the position as far as you're concerned remains that you did travel to Johannesburg on the date or weeks or months that you indicated in 2010, and you did go back same day, and that's your version?
That remains my version, Chair. Especially, I must say that I don't have joy with SAA records. As I
Yes.
pointed that there is this juncture
Yes.
between their record, their own records.
Yes.
As of my flights
Yes,
as I flew
yes,
SAA. Their records in Parliament, they don't necessarily talk to each other. And
Yes.
in fact, there are also missing legs
Yes.
on other aspects. So I stand by what I said earlier, Chair.
yes. Now, in terms of the airline you used for traveling from Cape Town to Johannesburg on that day for purposes of meeting the former president, is your own recollection quite clear as to which airline you used, or is the position that you are not sure?
My recollection is very, very clear that I checked in with SAA in the morning flight of 6 o'clock morning flight. And my recollection is very clear that I had also requested passenger assistance unit.
Now, you spoke about comparing SAA's records and comparing some records, travel records in Parliament. Now, the ones in Parliament, are they simply parliamentary records, or does SAA maybe have an office in Parliament to facilitate traveling by members of Parliament, and therefore you are talking about records of the same company not being consistent with each other?
Chair, the Parliament has got there is a travel agency based in Parliament.
Yes,
And I think its system is synced with the airlines
yes,
in Parliament, their
Yes.
computer system.
yes.
Because what happens is you phone the Parliament office, a travel agency, and you say that, please book me a flight from Johannesburg to Cape Town on this
Yes.
day, this time.
Yes,
And you tell them your preference. Sometimes they even have your preference in the
Yeah.
system. Then they will tell you that we can book you around that time is only British Airways.
yeah, yeah.
So what happens is when they issue the ticket and when you travel, their system will always show that on this day to this member of Parliament or their family, this ticket was issued, they traveled this airline, and even when the ticket is cancelled,
Yes,
their system will tell you that the ticket was cancelled, and then it
Yes.
takes normally a couple of weeks before they recoup the money. So the system of Parliament is quite thorough, and it's synced
Yeah.
with the system of airlines.
Yes.
So that's why I compared the
Yes.
SAA records of Parliament with SAA itself from SAA.
So those are records of a travel agent that you would have used for making bookings at that time.
Yes, Chair.
It's a travel agency.
Yes,
That
which
is
also
used by
has
Parliament.
records of airlines.
Yes. Have you had it? I take it that you have not, over the years, or at least since last time you gave evidence, you have not asked them for their own records so that you could tell whether they've got records of the day that you traveled to Johannesburg to meet the former president.
No, Chair, we had made that request through the commission.
Yes.
And that
yes.
was last year, and I think
Yes.
that's what I used to compare their records.
Yes,
Came from the commission because we had made
yes.
that request through the
Okay.
commission.
Okay. Ms. Silo?
If I may be of assistance,
Yes.
Chair, the Chair will recall at the beginning I'd said that SAA appears to have missed a flight or two, which we pick up from the
Yes.
parliamentary record.
Yes.
And the parliamentary record appears at D2, page 7.
7.
Page
Okay.
7 of D2. So Ms. Mentor would then have made a comparison of D27 and D226, Chair.
Okay. Say something about what we find at
What you find at
D7.
D7 is
D2, page 7.
D2, page 7. This is the record of Ms. Mentor's travel provided by Parliament. starting.
By the travel agent used by Parliament, is that right?
It's received from Parliament.
Oh, it's received
and
from Parliament.
The request was to
Okay.
Parliament and
Okay.
received from Parliament, Chair.
Okay,
The key, there are a number of entries. The first column reads account. It reads, the next column is period, followed by GL, invoice number, and invoice. Now, there are some dates in some of those columns that we propose for the moment we ignore. They are confusing, Chair. The key dates are in the last column, under line description. In
Or
every entry,
line description.
line description, yes,
Yes,
Chair.
okay.
Every entry would have Ms. Mentor's name, would have the flight number, the route, the date on which that flight was taken, and the time of that flight.
Yes.
So we use the last column. You're following Ms. Mentor, right?
No, ma'am.
You are D7.
Yes, I'm at D7.
It's D2, page 7.
D2, page 7. I apologize, Chair.
Yes, I'm
You're
D2,
there.
page 7, yes.
And I'll just trying to get our bearings here. This is called Entitlement Travel and Mentor, Domestic Travel in Terms of Facilities for Members Handbook. This was received from Parliament. It's got 6 columns. The first column is headed account, followed by the next column period. The next is GL with certain dates as well. Invoice number, and the 5th column is invoice and some dates. So we say, I said to the chair that when you look at the dates under GL and invoice, they might not necessarily always correspond, and they create a bit of a confusion. What we must instead concentrate on is the last column under the heading line description. When one considers line description, one will note that every entry states your name, the flight number involved, the route, if we take the first, that would be Johannesburg, Cape Town, date of that flight, 2010-06-17, and then it indicates the time, 1700 hours. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yes. So I was saying we concentrate on the line description. It would appear that the invoice entries and GL entries are probably matters that are relevant to parliamentary systems that we need not concern ourselves with. Now, you are comfortable with the document, Ms. Mentor?
Yes, I'm trying to remember where the other document of the,
SAA?
yes.
266, same file, 266. 226, apologies.
Well, before she does that, let's finish on this one, and we'll move together if need be to go to the other
Okay.
one. Let's finish on this one. What does it show?
What this one shows, it's consistent with page 266, D2, 266, except 266 has omitted 2 flights, and those are the ones that I wanted to bring to the chair's attention.
Yes.
And the first one is the flight of 15th October 2010, and that was Cape Town, Johannesburg, Cape Town. That, I don't know if the chair's version has got a green highlight.
Well, it might be green, yeah. Okay, I see, yes.
Yes, the first green entry, that's the one. Do you locate it,
Yes.
Ms. Mentor?
Yes, ma'am, it's the 5th column from the bottom.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, that flight is not in the SAA records, and that is the flight I had requested that we pencil into the little tool, into the calendar I submitted. The second flight that is missing from the SAA record is in November. And that would be the 4th of November. It is the 3rd entry from the bottom of D27. And that is a Cape Town, Kimberley, Cape Town flight.
D2, page 7.
D2, page 7. Apologize, I
Okay.
keep saying D7. I do apologize, Chair. D2, page 7. The third entry from the bottom, it's SA 8617, Cape Town, Kimberley, Cape Town, on the 4th of November 2010. Those two flights do not appear on the SAA record. Did you follow what I was saying, Ms. Mentor?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's the two flights that I had requested that we can pencil in the
In
calendar that I submitted.
Okay, all right.
We are not particularly concerned with the 4th of November because it's beyond the period that we are interested in.
Yeah.
But the one of 15 October is important.
Yes. Let's get to that.
Thank you. Ms. Mentor, then understanding that, having done that, then Chair, as I indicated, we requested and were furnished with President Zuma's diary from July 2010 to December 2010. We started by looking at the flights Ms. Mentor took in the relevant period. That shows she flew in from Cape Town and back to Cape Town on the same day.
Well, are we sure where Ms. Mentor is at this stage about having traveled or not having traveled? Now that she has looked at that, and then we can talk about what the former president's diary says, bearing in mind that the former president, as I understand it, was given Ms. Mentor's statement, and he has never sought to challenge her evidence so far as I know. Indeed, I requested that he furnish us with his version in relation to Ms. Mentor's evidence. Up to now, I've not been told that he has done so. So I just mentioned that. Maybe let's start with what she has seen, the witness, and then move step by step so that you will, at a certain stage, tell her what the diaries suggest.
I'm happy to do so, Chair. The Chair will recall that on Ms. Mentor's evidence, her trip to Johannesburg from Cape Town, when she finally met with Mr. Ajay Gupta and the former president at Saxon World, was on a Monday, having been invited on a Sunday. And I submitted that on the records that we have, we do not have a Monday flight.
That's what should be put to her or for her to comment. Ms. Mentor, Ms. Silo says that these records, both from SAA and from Parliament, which I assume are the ones that you said are thorough, they do not seem to support any suggestion that you flew from Cape Town to Johannesburg on a Monday that falls within the period that we are talking about. What do you say about
Chair,
that?
if I may add,
Yes.
and back to Cape Town. On the same day.
And back to Cape Town, insofar as we're talking about these particular records. What do you say to that?
Chair, I say that I have a problem with these records, and I maintain that I flew from Cape Town to Johannesburg on a particular Monday and returned on that same Monday back to Cape Town. And that during that visit, I was taken to Sahara and to Saxon World, where I met the president. I stand by that.
I haven't had time to refresh my memory as much as Ms. Silo and maybe yourself may have had in regard to these records from SAA and from Parliament. But you appreciate that the records from Parliament, which I thought you said were thorough, also do not seem to support that. You understand that?
Chair, I said they don't speak to each other, that
Oh,
there are
okay,
points where
okay.
they don't speak to each other.
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
necessarily saying they are thorough.
Yes,
I'm saying they
okay.
don't talk to each other, points where they don't
Yes.
talk to each other.
There's
But I
discrepancy.
maintain that I traveled on a Monday
Yes.
morning
Okay, all right.
and returned the same day
Yes.
and was taken to Sahara and Saxonwold and met the
Yes.
president and the
Yes.
Gupta brothers.
Is there a chance that you could be mistaken as to the day of the week? In other words, is there a chance that you think it was a Monday, but it may have been another day of the week, and that might explain why the records do not show, or are you quite clear in your mind that it definitely was a Monday?
I'm very clear in my mind that it was a Monday, Chair. I'm very clear in my mind that it was a Sunday evening when I received the call that the president is ready to see me. I'm very clear that it was a Monday where I was told the president was at Lutulu House whilst I was
Yes.
kept waiting both at Sahara and in Saxonwold. I'm crystal clear about that.
Yes, okay, thank you, thank you.
Chair, we will have to go.
Oh, I didn't realize the time we are beyond the normal lunch hour. It's nearly 20 past. Maybe we go up to 1:30 so that the lunch hour will be 1:30 to 2:30, 1:30 to 2:30.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
We will, over the lunch hour, go through the transcript of Ms. Mentor, because on the previous occasion, we understood her to cast some doubt on her recollection, and that she may have flown on another day. And if our understanding of her evidence in that regard is incorrect, we shall make a proper retraction. I point that out because having not found a Monday flight that accords with her evidence, we then looked at any other flight on any other day that is consistent with that. And we found some flights where she flew into Johannesburg and out again. And then we start from that point and look at the whereabouts of the former president, Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, and Mr. Atul Gupta, because at some point, the 5 of them must all congregate at Saxonwold. And that is the purpose of this exercise, who was where on a date she could possibly have flown into Johannesburg to meet the president.
Yes.
So if Ms. Mentor maintains that that flight was on a Monday and no other day, then the exercise we did will not assist you, Chair.
Yeah.
Because that will be speaking to their movements on days other than Monday.
Yeah, yeah. Proceed and
So, Ms. Mentor.
let's use the 10 minutes.
Yes. Would you want us to consider the other dates on which you flew into Johannesburg from Cape Town and back to Johannesburg that were not necessarily Mondays, or do you think that will be a waste of time?
At this stage, no. I stand by the Monday.
And what?
Well, one of the things that Ms. Silo said she was going to do during the lunch break, and she will hear when we come back, was that she seems to think that on a previous occasion when you were giving evidence, you might not have been as certain that it was Monday as you may be now. So she would check, and if she says if she is mistaken, she will tell us that she didn't find anything. But that's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Chair. I will engage her at that point, at that time.
No, that's fine, yes.
Well, Chair,
Yes.
I know the Chair was hoping we break at 1:30, at 1:30. This is the last aspect of this issue of the travel to Johannesburg and the meeting in Saxonwold. So perhaps
Yes.
it might be proper that we go consider the transcript, see what the transcript exactly says, and then
Yes.
Ms. Mentor can make her final decision. Then I can move on to the next topic, Chair.
Yes.
I have no other issues to deal with on this travel except trying to determine when it is the 5 were available to be in the same place.
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. In terms of your own questioning, how much more time do you think you will still need?
I would conclude with Ms. Mentor today still, and that was the plan, and that she's handed over for cross-examination from tomorrow.
How many parties were granted leave to cross-examine her, by the way? So
If I may then quickly address you on that, Chair, perhaps, and dispose of that. 4 parties had applied to cross-examine, and that was Advocate Mtolo, Ms. Kaunda, Advocate Hlongwane, and the Gupta family. The Gupta family was
what
application.
about Mr. Tutuzane Zuma?
No, Mr. Duduzane Zuma did not apply to cross-examine Ms. Mentor.
Okay.
We'll dispose of the Gupta family application, which the chair dismissed, so leaving the 3, Mtolo, Kaunda, and Hlongwane.
So it's Ms. Kaunda, Mr. Mtolo,
and Mr. Hlongwane.
but Hlongwane has fallen away.
And that was going to be my next point, Chair, that he
Yes.
see, in light of the retraction by Ms. Mentor,
Yeah.
he has written a letter indicating that he will not persist with his cross-examination, but he would appreciate if the evidence leaders could place on record that the objective, verifiable evidence they have received is that he did not travel to China at the time Ms. Mentor alleges, and that
Yeah, but she
he
has
was
made
on
the
the
retraction,
plane.
and that
So
should be
that
the
is
end
on
of it,
record.
yeah.
That leaves 2 people to cross-examine, which is Mtolo and Kaunda.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the issues of time that she has emphasized, whether we would be able to finish.
I would finish today.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
no,
Chair.
that's fine, but
However, if I
no,
may.
no, there's no reason why, even with those 2, we can't finish tomorrow. As far as I'm concerned, there's really no reason why. Ms. Kaunda's issues are very limited, very narrow.
Very.
And I can't remember about Mr. Mtolo, but Ms. Kaunda's issue is very narrow.
It's very narrow.
So, okay.
If I may, Chair.
Yeah.
That, of course, depends on how the chair will rule on how to deal with the inspection in loco.
Okay, yes. We must try and use the time that we have today optimally,
Yes, Chair.
so that we don't have challenges tomorrow. Okay, we are going to take the lunch adjournment, and we will resume at 2:30.
Yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn.